Hi TEDxAC and TEDxAustinCollege. My name is Mariam Abeje or Mariam Abeje, and I am bilingual in English and Amharic, which is one of the main languages spoken in Ethiopia. Being bilingual is an amazing gift, although sometimes it can get you into trouble. One cool part of speaking a different language is that you can speak openly and make comments without anyone listening in. But there is a catch. You can come across someone who speaks the language, but you wouldn't think that they would. Normally, I personally think I can spot an Ethiopian from a mile away. But I heard about a family friend's story who was in an elevator complimenting a guy's looks to her friend, thinking that the guy couldn't speak Amharic. Once they reached this floor, the guy turned around, smiled, and told them to have a great day in Amharic. I personally would have been speechless, but in the end, it's an experience to laugh at and be grateful to make connections like this with strangers. Being bilingual has been a huge part of my life. Communicating both in English and Amharic has been a part of me ever since I was a kid. However, I recently realized that when I speak my two languages, I felt different and portrayed myself in different ways. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. But before we get into that, let me give you all a little background on my story, my family's story, and how I came to be here. My family consists of me, Annate, or my mom, Achamilish, Abate, or my dad, Abeje, and Wendime, my brother, Nathanael. I grew up going back and forth from Ethiopia and America. My first 6 years were in Texas, but then my family decided we're moving to Ethiopia. Moving wasn't really much of a culture shock, but then again, I was just 6 and was just happy to be with my family. I did have to adjust to speaking Amharic more frequently, and also learn the customs in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, I was constantly encouraged to speak Amharic, but was also taught to keep my thoughts to myself. Not in a negative way, but it was just more of a culture of respect. I was around more people accustomed to only the adults really speaking, and the children there to listen and obey. This was the environment that I grew my Amharic in, and would describe myself as a shy and soft-spoken kid. 7 years later, when I was 13, my family decided we're moving back to Texas, and that was truly a drastic change. I had to accustom myself to the American school system, individualized lifestyle, and also kind of change the way I portrayed myself when I spoke English in this new environment I was now in. Even though I learned textbook English when I was in Ethiopia, throughout junior high and high school, I was able to further cultivate my English. Now, I was in an environment that emphasized speaking up for yourself, and I was able to learn to be confident in myself and that my voice really mattered. This shaped the now outgoing, outspoken person I am when speaking English. So when I thought about why I felt different when I spoke my two languages, I went to the one place that I knew would never fail me: Google. Sadly, there wasn't much research on this, with just a few sources agreeing that people did feel different when they spoke their respective languages. So then I decided to ask the people around me. So now I want to take a quick audience poll. Please clap if you speak a different language. It's okay if you never thought about it, but now please clap if you feel like you have a different personality or portray yourself in a different way when you speak that other language. Okay. Seems like most of y'all agree. So once Google didn't really help me out, I was disappointed, but I knew it couldn't just be me. And I was right. My friend Eva felt the same way. She felt the difference when she spoke English versus speaking Spanish. Eva grew up in Mexico speaking Spanish everywhere she went, and even though she would describe herself as being shy, she always spoke up in school and never felt judged. On the other hand, when she moved to the US, she had an accent and only knew a few words. Imagine feeling so lost in a new country. Eva was put in regular classes where there wouldn't be a lot of help for her. She somehow managed to pass these classes with only her English second language, or ESL teachers, really putting in the effort to help understand and encourage her. She mainly learned her English through reading, so sometimes when she decided to speak, it didn't always come out right. anyone who's learned a new word and mispronounced it can identify with that. Even though Eva eventually did become fluent, she still feels that difference. Part of it could be that the cultures are really different in Mexico and America. So even beyond the translation barriers, she felt the difference in the sense of humor as well. What's acceptable and funny in one culture can be seen as offensive in another. She describes that she can't have the same sass in English as she does in Spanish. All these experiences have had an impact on her. But interestingly enough, the person whose story is most relatable to mine is my mother's, but in the complete opposite way. She is more bold and outspoken when speaking Amharic, while more calm and soft-spoken when speaking English. So then I decided I'm gonna look into the environment that she grew her communication in for each of her languages. She grew up in Ethiopia as truly her father's favorite child out of her 4 siblings. Her father always made her feel as though her opinion mattered, and he always believed in her. He showed that with his actions, and that built her confidence in Amharic. On the other hand, she struggled in America. And now let's dive into the beginning of her American experience. When she was 17, she moved to Texas and started living in her uncle's home. She was now in an unfamiliar situation, away from all that she knew. She attended a high school with ESL classes, but was constantly made fun of and discouraged by her peers and her teachers. She had to try to learn English in an environment that wasn't meant for her to flourish, with people who were meant to help her just choosing to look down on her. She was discouraged day after day, with people not even putting in the effort to help her understand how to develop her language in this new country she was now a part of. Now, over 20 years later, she's still discouraged in little ways, with people looking to me to translate her accent. Even though I think she speaks great English, she still feels unsure of it. So while I'm bold and confident when speaking English, more shy and reserved when speaking Amharic, she's the complete opposite. She's seen as a go-to person for Amharic speakers, but when she speaks English, she doesn't always appear confident in what she's saying. But these parts make her who she is, and her journey has led her to become the most empathetic, kind person that I know. So this is definitely not one of those TED Talks where I break out the science and I explain why it is that I feel this way. I'm not even sure that people who study language have done much research on this. I'm just here to share my story and my observations with you. And in my observation, the environment in which one learns the language really impacts the way they portray themselves when they speak that language. Maybe you feel the same way. Or maybe you could think of it as the different ways we portray ourselves in the variety of environments we're put in. Or maybe you're like my father and don't see much of a difference. Or maybe you never even thought about it at all. If anything, the next time you come across someone who doesn't speak English as fluently as you, or at all, think about it. Walk in their shoes. Perhaps my speech today will soften your heart so that you may be patient enough to listen to them and try to understand them. Even attempt to say their name. And it's okay to make a mistake. It's probably better to make a mistake than to not even try at all and make them feel like they're not worth the effort. My mother's name is Achamilash, and no one ever dares to try to say her name when they read it, for fear of getting it wrong. But she actually loves when people try, so that she can correct them instead of them completely disregarding something that makes her different. And by the way, her name means one of a kind. Overall, even though I feel different when I speak my 2 languages, those 2 parts of me come together to make me who I am. Being able to communicate in 2 languages has given me opportunities to learn from different cultures and to also be open and respect other languages and cultures as well. I'm a Nalo, and thank you for listening to my TED Talk.